I've cried non-stop probably for like 8 months, and you try and hide it, right? You don't want people in public just randomly bursting out in the office, but it's so that pain. That's why I was trying to understand how you manage that, because that type of loss and the change of life and grieving obviously what you wanted to be your family living together in Dubai, that must have been hard. But I feel what that is.
There's no question about it. It's tough. It's very tough. There's I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, to be completely honest with you. It's a challenge.
Let's Talk DXB. Real conversations by real people.
Ainsley, firstly, thank you. Thank you for giving me your time on this Sunday afternoon. And I say that because this is the second time that we're meeting in person, and you've been generous with being able to come into the studio and speak to me as part of my Let's Talk journey. So why have I dragged you into a studio on a Sunday afternoon? So I came across your Instagram page a while ago, actually, and I saw that you were very transparent about sharing stories about your daughter, your beautiful daughter Aria, and then more recently about your fitness journey, your transformation there, and really a personal post about a time where you were without your daughter. So I was like, okay, I think Ainsley, he's a single dad, really trying to be present and intentional in his daughter's life. And that triggered me because I've recently gone through a divorce, and now I'm very much a single mother, raising my son alone in Dubai. I think when I saw your posts, it really just encouraged me that, there can be single dads out there that are really engaged in their child's lives. We hear about great mothers all the time. It's about, mothers doing this for their kids, single mothers. But I wanted to flip the script a bit and learn a bit more about you and your journey, and why, what encourages you to be so present in your child's life as a single dad, because it also gives me hope that, that's what I'm definitely seeking, to get to that resolve with my son's father. So that's what brought me here to speak to you about your journey, your transformation, being a single dad in Dubai. Thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me, to be honest with you. I mean, I was surprised when you reached out and you invited me to come through. So no problem. I'm happy to share anything that can be beneficial for anyone. So no problem.
Yeah, I always say that you never know who's watching, because I'm guessing for you're just being very, authentic. Actually, you don't get many men and many fathers being that authentic on social media. So I really, I was really grateful for you to be willing to be so vulnerable and share about that. So that's really what triggered me to bring you in. Now, as we're only meeting for the second time, the first time was only an hour. So I feel like obviously there's still a lot more that I'd like to learn about you before we go into the nitty gritty of, being a single dad. And there's so many layers to that conversation. So let's start with Ainsley. Let's start with your upbringing. Where did you grow up? What did that look like?
So I am from Chelmsford in Essex.
Okay.
So I'm an Essex boy. I left the UK when I was 16 years old.
Wow.
Actually, it's quite an interesting story. I saw a job advertised in Tenerife. I've always been keen on living abroad, and my best friend Mark, I got the job. I had to fly over to Tenerife. I had no money. My best friend Mark, he came with me on the train. In fact, he brought our tickets up to Heathrow Airport, and when we got to Heathrow Airport, he gave me his last £50 because I was the one that was going away to travel, and he said, "You're going to need this more than me," and he actually jumped the train back with no ticket because he gave me all the money that he actually had.
At the age of 16?
At the age of 16, yeah.
But where did that desire to leave home, the bravery even? 16, I was not thinking about leaving home at all.
Yeah. I think I was eating and drinking too much of the food at home with my parents. I think they were keen for me to
get out.
Yeah, to get out to save them some more. Yeah.
Wow.
So that was it. So I went off and started a new life in Tenerife at 16.
And what did you do at 16 in Tenerife then?
So I started off doing commission only, and I was working for some of the bars and restaurants and that kind of thing over there, and hotels, just working on commission, getting people to different places, and it was a challenge. Yeah, it was a real challenge. It was a real challenge at the time.
Wow. Which then explains, obviously we've spoken a bit, but I think it then explains kind of your entrepreneurial risk-taking spirit that you have now, because that's very brave at such a young age to do that as well.
Yeah.
So how long did you spend in Tenerife?
Oh, almost like 9 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you stuck it out then?
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say a year later I moved back to Chelmsford.
No. Failure wasn't an option.
Wow.
Really, even from those days. So I knew that I made my bed. I had to lay in it, and I had to turn it around. And I actually ended up at 24. I bought my first property over there, actually, a 4-bedroom townhouse.
No way.
Just from working away and turning it all around. So I can't forget what Mark did for me. Really, all that time ago. We're still friends now.
I was going to say, you're still friends because that's a good friend.
No, he's a really good friend. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so then you've done that period. You go back to the UK, or what does that look like?
Oh, wow. So I did go to the UK for a short period of time. So I had to go back in order to go and do that.
Yep.
And I also went and worked in New York as well on Wall Street, because that's something that I really, really wanted to do.
Okay, so you've done Spain, you've done New York, you've gone back home for a little bit, and then after New York, where did you end up?
I think it was Dubai Dubai was always on the radar, and I always wanted to come to Dubai, and I always wanted to have an opportunity to work here.
Yeah.
So that was one that was definitely shining bright.
Yep. And that's how we get here, sitting in a podcast studio. So then you're single in Dubai, you're working, you're figuring it out, you've been working for some time. Then how do you transition to having a lot of free time, creativity, to moving into being a dad, I guess? Like, was that planned? Did you always want to kind of have a family? How did that come about?
I've always wanted to. I've been completely honest. I always wanted to have a son.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I always wanted to. I think a lot of guys, they like to have like a mini me. They always want to kind of have a.
I hear a lot of that. Yeah.
So I always wanted to have a son, and I always wanted to have a family.
Okay.
Aria was planned actually. My daughter, which I'm just over the moon with, and really, really happy.
Yep.
That we had her. So that was really, really good.
So how did you meet Aria's mother? Did you meet her in Dubai?
So I was in Dubai.
Okay.
And then I got a phone call from a friend of mine that I used to work with previously.
Okay.
That we'd worked for in the UK when I went to get the driving licence. So he called me up out of the blue, and he said, Ainsley, there's an opportunity in Kenya.
Okay.
I wanna get a hotel. I want you to come in on it with me.
Right.
And I said, hotel, Kenya, I'm not really sure if that's going to be, my gig. Yep. I go, but out of respect for you, send me some pictures, let me have a little look, and we can go from there. So I had a little look. He said it was actually a resort he sent through. I'm like, does a place look like this in real life? Does it actually look as, the same? He goes, yeah, it does. I go, all right, let me come over and have a little look, and we'll go from there. So when I knew I was going to be going over to Kenya, I was at a time, I was single, so I was on the dating apps.
Right.
And there's a way that with one of the dating apps, you're able to transport yourself to the country.
Really?
Yeah, before you're there.
Okay.
It's like some passport thing, or whatever you can do if you pay for the app. So I transported myself into Kenya before I got there, so that I was able to get a lay of the land. So whilst I was getting a lay of the land, I then
wow. Okay, so you met her in Kenya. So you're then in Kenya. You've moved around a lot then, actually. You've travelled and worked in different places. So you're in Kenya getting a feel for this resort. You meet Aria's mother there as well. How long did you spend in Kenya then? Were
Almost
you
4 years.
relocating? So
I relocated.
You lived there?
Yeah, I lived there.
Oh, right. Okay. So 4 years.
Almost 4 years, yeah. The pandemic is kind of what changed all of that.
Yeah, that would have made sense, actually.
The hotel having to... the airport was shut for a good period of time, so we couldn't get out, and
so you were stuck there.
Yeah, it was a challenge.
Wow. Okay, so you meet a lovely young lady, beautiful young lady, fall in love in Kenya, and then you decide that you want to have a family, like you knew it was serious.
Yeah.
And then Aria was born in Kenya. Is that?
Yeah, she was born in Nairobi.
Okay,
yeah.
Fine. And then pandemic brought you back to Dubai?
Yeah, because at the beginning of the pandemic, one of the big things was about the number of ventilators that you needed to have at the very beginning. It's changed a lot.
Correct.
So I was doing my research, and I was looking to see the local hospital to where I was in Nairobi, and I was checking to see how many ventilators they had. I found out they only had 4 ventilators.
Time to go.
In this hospital, and I was like, do you know what? If I need one of these ventilators, I'm not fancying my chances. I was like, I'm not fancying my child. If I need one of these things, the maths is not going to work.
Yeah.
So I knew then that I needed I needed to get out, and I needed to bring the family out as well at the same time. But the airport was shut, so that was the first time from traveling a lot around the world. Whenever I've always travelled, I've always felt like I can always go anywhere at any time.
Yes.
But all of a sudden, when the airport shut, I was like, hang on a minute.
That's scary.
Yeah.
I can't get out.
Yeah.
So then how did you? Or you just had to wait for it to reopen?
We had to wait for it to reopen. Yeah,
it reopened.
Really it reopened, and then we all came back to Dubai.
So how old was Aria then, actually?
She was young. Yeah, she was young. Wow. She was like, 2 years old.
Wow, okay. So now you've got your family safely in Dubai, more ventilators. I remember those times with COVID, that was scary. So you did well to kind of get out. Particularly, obviously, unfortunately, in Africa, there was limitation in the very beginning. So yeah. Okay, so now you're back as a family in Dubai.
Yeah.
What was that like? Because obviously Aria's mum had never lived in Dubai, is that right? So all new to her. So what was that transition like then?
It was fantastic to be honest. I mean, I'd been here before, so I had connections. I knew I had a good network and base of friends and stuff here already. So for me, obviously, it was very, very good. For her, it wasn't quite as good because obviously coming to a new place, you don't know anybody. It can be a little bit lonely, a little bit daunting, and she wasn't working, so also that makes it a little bit more challenging as well.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so that leads into kind of the realness of kind of what happened during that journey of you're in Dubai together, but then there seemed to be a period of separation, or what did that look like? Because I think that's probably the pivotal bit which triggered me to be like, I want to understand his journey and why I've coined it single dad, because I guess there was a period of separation in that. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, she wanted to go home. She was homesick and she missed her family, and she wanted to go back to Nairobi. Okay. With Aria.
So how did you take that? That's hard. Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, I've had better days.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think that's what the bit I was seeing, that must have been a really tough situation, which then probably led for that piece where you talk about the fight to bring her back. So how did that work out? Because you've got a mother that is not comfortable being in Dubai for valid reasons, for sure, but then you missed your daughter. Yeah. So, how did you figure that out?
I'm quite goal orientated.
I can tell.
As you can probably tell from some of the other stories. So I mean, it was at the time. I thought, it'll be okay. It won't be that bad. I can fly over and go and see her and that kind of thing, and see my daughter. But it was significantly more challenging than I anticipated.
Yeah. Okay.
And I knew that it couldn't really continue like that. It was too much.
Yeah. So then what were the process? What was the step to bring her back over? Like, how did that work out?
By any means necessary. Any legal means necessary.
I was like, legal means.
Any legal means necessary.
Okay, fine.
So I spoke to the mum. Yep. I spoke to her mum as well.
Oh, good.
And I kind of, said like, it would be really good to kind of have Aria living in the same country as both her parents. Yeah. And I liked some of the opportunities that she could have had here through some of the, the relationships that I had here, or the connections I had here already. Mm-hmm. So I kind of just got to work on that really, to try and see if we could bridge the gap.
Yeah, persuasive. And it worked.
But they're here now.
Yeah, they're here. Yeah, it worked. Yeah. So how do you find that dynamic? Because for me, being a single mum, working full time, obviously you've got a very busy role and you're busy, you travel a lot, but it seems like you make it work. This is my point about you being a very intentional dad and very present. So I know single parenting is not easy at all, and luckily it seems like you've got that good dynamic with Aria's mother, so there's that co-parenting, which I'm going to get tips from you on. But how is that? Like, if I coin like being a single dad in Dubai, how do you manage your time and make sure you've got time for Aria and time for yourself, and what does that look like?
I mean, to be honest, I wanted to try and spend as much time with her as I possibly could. I mean, having her in the same country and, just down the road, like 15 minutes down the road, was also something that made life a lot easier. So that was the first thing. And then, in fact, even work-wise, I wanted to be able to do something that would allow me to have more time so that I would be able to be available if she needed me. So
you even adapted like that career approach for when, wow. Like, not many people do that. I complain. I'm in a 9-to-5, very busy job, and I dream of having that flexibility. Luckily, the company is flexible enough because I'm obviously here by myself. I have to do school runs, doctor's appointments, play dates. So I'm grateful that there is that flexibility, that hybrid model, but adapting your whole career to then be present for your child. Like, to me, and I know you're looking at me blankly, because when we met for lunch, I was like, for me, it's like a big deal. But you looked and you're like, it's the norm, which is how it should be seen. And it should be very much like, why are you blowing into a podcast even? But you don't get that. I'm seeing firsthand, and unfortunately, dads that don't do that. So I'm just like, that is you being very intentional to like be very present with Aria.
The only way I could probably answer that, for me, it was just like I just had to do it. It wasn't. There wasn't really any other option for it, and I wanted to try and be as available as I could for her. But I'm sure all parents want to try and do that, and people can do it to just different degrees. Right? Maybe I'm an extremist.
No, you're the norm. I hope there should be more of it. Yeah, but it's a good point, I guess. I mean, someone else might be, because I work in a very busy role and do my best to at least, be present, spend as much time. Obviously, I'm in the house, I'm able to do that. But there's others where, maybe in my opinion, maybe not as present. So when I hear your story and how much you've adapted your lifestyle and fought to bring Aria and her mother back as well to make sure that they're all comfortable, you don't hear of that often. And it's sad to say that, but that's not always the norm anymore, unfortunately. So that's what really made me think, wow, I want to talk to you and understand a bit more about that. But it's just interesting how you're like, why wouldn't I? Which is great. Which also makes me think, because I'm doing therapy actually. Since my divorce, I'm really working on healing and learning more about myself and how to better myself. And they always go back to childhood, right? They always go back to, what was your upbringing like, etc. But that's the point. Like, what was your upbringing like? Obviously, you left home at 16, which is a very young age. But what was that like? Were your parents together? Have you always seen that dynamic? Is that why that seems quite normal to you?
So, my parents, I think they've been married for 47 years.
Whoa.
Now, so.
Wow. Yeah. That is impressive. Okay.
So it was
it's quite normal.
Yeah, it was really quite normal, apart from the fact that I did leave quite early to go travelling the world.
And they didn't mind that, actually?
They didn't mind it, to be fair. No, they were really quite good. They're quite supportive about it. Really. They were really, I think they always knew that I wanted to go and do things, and I always kind of like, if I'd set my mind on something, I want to go and,
They know their child, basically.
They know, so.
Well, it's paid off. So, it's good that they gave you that freedom at such a young... My parents, no way. That's why I was like, I'd never even think about leaving at 16. So it's good that you had that freedom.
Yeah.
And I feel like, obviously, you learn from what you see when you grow up. Not always, and I don't want to stereotype or anything like that. But one thing for me is, obviously, I'm a single mum raising a boy as well. And I have friends that have girls, like they have daughters. And it's the same. I was like, no, I have to raise this boy to be a man. Yeah. And there's a void there because his dad is not as active at the moment. It could change. I'm praying daily that it does change. That scares me, because where is his kind of visual representation of growing up to be like a man in this society and the challenges that come with being a man? And I can only teach him so much. Yeah. So I'm very conscious of, your child learning from you and the environment in the home, which I feel like that's probably why you are so like, I want my child near me, because you've known that. I mean, your parents being together for 40 years, and it seems to be in a healthy environment, makes such a difference in regards to your perception of being a father and what that looks like. So that's really interesting. Yeah,
on that point, I think one of the things I felt was important is that, yes, I did obviously want Aria, my daughter, to be close with me, but I also knew that she needed to have her mum as well, right? So I knew there wasn't a case of, trying to just bring her to be with me. Yeah. And also, one of the other things I didn't really want was I didn't want that. And I know this will sound weird and people won't really understand it, but I didn't want Aria to be involved in the legal battle. Now I know that everybody else watching will be like, this guy's on another planet, like, you can't do it that way. And listen, I understand, and everybody's situation is different, and things are very challenging. But that was just something for myself, that if I could have avoided that, I definitely would have wanted to try and avoid that, I was fortunate that I was able to avoid that situation. The mum was really good, and she worked really with me, and so I've got to give full credit to her for that's good. And it's encouraging that healthy dynamic can exist. And I'm learning myself, like, when you go through divorce, and actually I think I call myself naive all the time, because there's a lot that I uncovered about my ex-husband that I wasn't aware of, if I'm brave enough to release it. But that comes with a lot of betrayal and hurt, and you want to guard yourself, so you can naturally go into defense. I'm not obviously the warmest when we have to interact, because I'm still healing from that trauma, but I'm
I'm always trying to remind myself that there is a 3-year-old boy who is innocent in this, who deserves both parents. And I'm very much trying to leave that door open, but equally want his dad to know that it is his responsibility. That's why I talk to you and think like, for you, it's the norm.
Please don't, on that point, please don't let me kind of paint it as like it's all roses. And
No,
it's all,
it never is.
Yeah,
though.
it's
yeah,
all, yeah. So
of
don't get the
course.
mum definitely hated me for a good long time. Okay, so I definitely wasn't the golden child.
But thank you for being honest.
The golden child, sailing through. She definitely disliked me. Yeah,
but at least you can own that, right? At least you own it and say, there's fault and whatever. But not many people can even say that, you know. But at least you've gotten to a place where your daughter has both parents, and you've come to an understanding to make it work for Aria. And I think that's what it is. You know, healing will come on both sides, whatever that looks like. And that's my encouragement in terms of knowing you can get to that point. So, I think that's interesting. So I'm going to go back a bit, because it seems like when Aria and her mother moved back to Kenya, that's maybe when you went into your kind of transformation in terms of health and fitness, if I've gotten that right. So what triggered that? Was it the distraught of losing your child, the breakdown in the relationship? Usually it's something that pushes someone into doing that. What did that look like?
So that was exactly it. That was a trigger. So they left. So in fact I actually moved out of the house, but they were still there. And then that first day, now I've moved into this little place. They obviously stayed in the house. I didn't want Aria to leave the house and to mess her up and all that kind of stuff, right? I was like, you're sat in these 4 walls, and you're like, now what?
What's gonna happen now?
Now what?
Yeah.
And I'm like, and many times when you're kind of like, in these high stress situations, you can kind of spiral out of control into like, you can, somebody might want to go and have a drink and want to start eating, and I've got nothing against any of those things. They're all,
all needed sometimes.
Or, but I thought to myself, right, do you know what I mean? I need to focus, and I need to just put everything somewhere. So then I just started. Then that it was I'd start training, to be fair, and in fact, it started off by walking. I started off by walking. Okay. I just started walking every morning for an hour.
Good.
That's how it started. Yep. I just started doing that. And every day I thought I just focus on going out tomorrow and just walking for an hour. So I'd put my headphones in, listen to a podcast, and literally just walk around. There's a track, and just walk around the track every morning. And that's actually originally where it all started.
This is literally my life now. I've put on, some people say you can't notice it, but I can notice it. I obviously, during the process of divorce, the stress of, that kind of, I think for me it was grieving the loss of my family, that kind of, what I never wanted to, I always said, because I was married for 6 years, dated for 4, so I've known my ex-husband for 10 years, and we didn't have a child until I think like 2 or 3 years after marriage. So for me it was always like, I never want to have a kid. It was never like, let's just have a baby now. I didn't want to bring a child into it unless I knew it was going to be something where it would last. Obviously, naturally, no one wants a divorce, where he would grow up with 2 parents, because that's what I've known in my upbringing. It doesn't mean that's the right way. I'm actually learning now and rewiring my brain to say it's about that child being in a safe and healthy environment. No one wants to see their parents in an unhealthy marriage, and that's what they learn. So that's why I removed myself. But I ate through that process. I'm still kind of eating through that process, but just started walking now. I walk daily. I listen to, even if it's sermons, I'm a Christian, so I'll listen to like a preacher, or listen to music. And that level of stress that gets released in that process, and a bit of weight, has helped so much. So that's encouraging to know. That's a good starting place for me.
Walking's the key.
Yeah.
Walking was the key. Okay. Walking is the key. Walking, I'd highly recommend that. It just so happens, coincidentally, at the same time, or similar time to that, I also, I was also having a few unusual things happening to me. My vision was starting to get a little bit funny. So sometimes I'd be looking and I'd feel like something just ran across the floor. But it wasn't. It was my eyes were acting a little bit funny, right?
Really?
So I went to the doctors and I said to the doctor, I think you might need to have some checks and stuff, because I was getting pins and needles in my feet as well. So went to the doctor, had the blood tests and all of that, and he came back and he said, Ainsley, you are pre-diabetic.
Whoa.
And he said, if you carry on the way you're going, you're actually going to become full-blown diabetes.
From lifestyle? Just
from
like
lifestyle,
bad
from
habits.
lifestyle.
Right.
And then he said, the first thing that you need to do is you need to lose weight.
Okay.
So I said to him, like, is it reversible? And he said, of course it's reversible for the type that I had. But he said, you need to change your lifestyle. Wow. So that was also one of the caveats that kind of made me...
So it triggered you to get on with... Yeah. But it's good because, unfortunately, you actually hear people, they hear that and they still continue. It's a mental thing, right? Obviously, like forcing yourself. Like I know I have friends that, unfortunately, diabetes, etc., but just can't make that shift in terms of, I need to change. I had
my daughter. I had to change.
Yeah. Well, that's good. See, you say this so casually, but I'm like, there's so many people out there that's not even enough for them. But your motivation for Aria and your drive as a father, it impresses me. It impresses me because there's people out there that's not enough.
There was no option. I had to. I couldn't.
You carry on that way.
No.
So you started walking. You've been told that pre-diabetic potentially. So how did that fit? Because I'm getting tips for myself here. How did that fitness journey start? What did you do?
Started with walking first of all on the track. I was very, very big at the time. I was like 136.7 kg, like 21 stone.
Wow.
At the time. Yeah. So at that, when you're that big,
it's like a different. I can't even imagine. Yeah, that's a completely different person then.
Yeah. So it was just walking. It was walking. I did that for a full year of walking every day. First, I started at an hour, and then I started stepping it up to do 2 hours a day.
Fantastic. And you noticed that weight loss through that process?
Yeah, it started, and then in between that, then I would. I went back to the doctor. I went back to him, and I said, hey, Dr. Vipin, how's it going? I thought I'd come back and see you. And he said, I said, is there anything I can do to ensure that this diabetes, that it won't come back? Yeah. And he said, yeah, there is. And he gave me a 9-step plan of things that I had to do in order to make sure that the diabetes wouldn't come back.
Okay.
So I said, okay, fine. And he started writing down the steps. And step 1, he's like, exercise. And I looked at him smugly and said, Dr. Vipin, don't worry about that. I've got exercise. I walk around the track every morning for 1 hour. I'll have you know. He looked at me and he said to me, Ainsley, are you 90? And I said, no. He goes, why the hell are you walking around that track? You need to be running around that track. Start running from tomorrow. So I went in there thinking that I was doing all well. And he's like, you're crazy.
It's not even enough.
Yeah, it's not. You're nowhere near it. Get stuck in. You need to be running around that track. So then I started running around the track.
So you started to pick it up.
Yeah,
wow.
And then I got a PT and then I started training.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, that had me thinking like I'm doing my part. No, 1 hour walking is enough.
We're far from it. Yeah, Dr. Vipin wouldn't be happy at all. We need to be running.
And then diet, because that's the struggle. Like Dubai, we're in a place, great food, we're very lucky, brunches. So you had to change, obviously, your diet quite a bit, right? Yeah, which would be hard for me as well, because I love to eat.
I also love to eat as well. So I feel your pain on that one. So but diet had to change.
Yeah,
diet had to change. I was, in fact, to be fair, I was actually with my mum, who lives in Jamaica, one Christmas, and she looked at me and she said, Ainsley, she also said, like, son, you need to bring this weight down because like you're too big.
Right. Okay.
And I was like, damn, if my mum's telling me, I know I'm in trouble now. I'm like, okay, I'll jump on it.
Yeah, good for you. So that's like, what was that process? Aria's in Kenya. How long were they there for?
They were there for 373 days or something.
Not counting much.
Not that I wasn't counting that.
So that process, like you were then working out while she was away from you, basically.
Every day.
Yeah. And mentally, like how did you cope? Because like you said, you've moved from your home, family home, into a place. Yeah. And then obviously health is, not where it should be, pressurized to lose weight. You're away from your daughter. Yeah. That must be mentally exhausting. That's a lot to like shoulder.
Yeah. No, it was tough. It was. In fact, at the time, what was quite interesting is everybody was wearing the masks for the pandemic. Yes. Yeah. So people were grateful for the masks for the reasons that they were wearing them for. I was grateful for the masks because it meant when I was walking around and crying, the mask would absorb the tears. So I was like, these masks are great. They're absolutely brilliant. So
that's such a good point.
Yeah. So for me, the masks were fantastic because that made. Otherwise, people would be looking. Why is this guy walking around just crying as he's like walking to the mall or something?
Yeah, but honestly, I could do with masks, because obviously naturally going through divorce, I've cried non-stop probably for like 8 months, and you try and hide it, right? You don't want people in public just randomly bursting out in the office, but it's so that pain. That's why I was like trying to understand how you manage that, because that type of loss and the change of life and grieving obviously what you wanted to be your family living together in Dubai, that must have been hard. But I feel what that is.
There's no question about it. It's tough. It's very tough. There's I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, to be completely honest with you. It's a challenge.
You seem like you've got a good circle of like a community in Dubai. So in terms of helping you through that, you had like friends during that time where Arya was away.
Of course, yeah, I did. I had some really good friends, which I was really fortunate to have. Talk about the mental aspect of it. One thing I've learned, like now, I didn't really realise it at the time though, was yes, you have your network, you have your friends and that kind of thing, but also the actual training and going, that also helped as well.
Therapy,
and I didn't really realise that as much at the time. But if you have, I know that it's stereotypical, but healthy body, healthy mind.
Everyone says it, but it's the truth though, isn't it?
But I actually kind of experienced that by doing that. It genuinely actually helped me. Which I beforehand I wouldn't have said that. I'd have said, just go for some jerk chicken and you'll be fine.
Yeah, eat it. This is me. I'm just going to comfort eat my way through this time. But I'm working on some things as well. So I completely get where you're coming from. But now, obviously you look good. You're still working out. I assume it's like a lifestyle thing now, right, for you? Arya's back.
She's back.
Her mum is here as well. How's the co-parenting dynamic? Because I'm far from that.
We just do as best as we possibly can, right? And I think the most important thing is just to kind of focus on Arya each time. So if it makes sense and it's beneficial for her, then we do it. So that's kind of like how we do it. And the mum's really good, and she works with me on that as well. We work together on that to make sure that we can ensure that we can just do this as good as we can. Listen, it's not easy. You're never going to always get it right. You just got to try and do as best as you can. Just try and keep her as happy as you can.
Fantastic. So, what do you enjoy about being a dad? Let's wrap that up in terms of what do you enjoy about it?
I enjoy every aspect of it. It's great. I enjoy so as we kind of touched on earlier, I enjoy travel quite a bit. So one of the things that I really I'm trying to instill into her is also to kind of enjoy travel as well. But
you take her to so many places from what I've seen. Like you travel with her free, which is fantastic.
Yeah. 3 weeks ago we were in India for a good friend's wedding.
Amazing.
So it was a 3-day wedding. So she was my plus one.
Oh.
so she came with me there. When she was first born, we took her to Bali. Obviously I've taken her to my parents in Jamaica and America and stuff like that. So I want her to kind of, everyone says, oh, but she's too young, she won't remember it. I'm like, hang on a minute, I'm also there. I'm remembering it.
It's also me enjoying time with her.
I'm enjoying time with her. She's a great travel partner as well. She's really good to travel with. She can handle airports and stuff. And also what we do, we learn as we travel, right? So I'll say to her which country we're in now, which country we're going to, and we talk about that and how we can get there and how does the plane move. And she's small, but we still have, it's just learning and just enjoying
and that's about the intentional part of being a father, right? All these small things where people they won't remember, but you're intentionally trying to kind of instill. And you'll be surprised. I mean, my son is going to be 3. He absorbs so much now. Like he is watching everything around him. Like 2 weeks from whatever happened, he'll repeat back exactly. So she is absorbing and learning. So I think that all makes a difference as well.
I think what's also important is the fact that she has travelled so much. Even if she doesn't necessarily remember it, I do believe the confidence of having that travel, I think that'll still be there. I mean, time will tell and we'll see, but the fact that she knows that she's been to these places, and she obviously can see the pictures and the videos and all that kind of thing as well. And funnily enough, sometimes she will remind me of a time when we went somewhere and something happened, and I'm like, oh yeah, which country were we in there? And which continent's that on then? And we just
and it just instills confidence, right? She's meeting so many different cultures and learning about the world and actually seeing it firsthand. So I think it's a great idea. Who wouldn't want to travel around anyway? So my last question, I started with you never know who's watching, because I came across you just by seeing your story and what you posted and you being a bit more vulnerable. So knowing that Arya is obviously very much a big part of your life and is seeing you, what is it that you want her to take away from this story? Because it's quite a journey, right? Like, obviously you've been through a lot emotionally to get her here, but knowing that she's watching you, what do you want her to think about her dad when she thinks about you?
I didn't know that question was coming. What do I want her to think? Well, okay, so one of the things that I think is a little bit different now is everything I do, including this podcast, I recognise that she could kind of see, and she can kind of look back on it, right? So everything I do now, I want to be able to do things that will, I don't know, encourage her, inspire her, motivate her. She can learn from it, understand from it. So yeah, everything I do now is with intention, and I've got to set an example. Yeah. Right. And I think that's. I think all parents kind of want to be able to do that as best they can. Yeah. And set an example to your kids, so you can kind of get them to be as good as they can, and in no matter what they want to be able to go ahead and go and do.
Fantastic. That's exactly it. Yeah, I mean, obviously as a mother, anything that I do, even in this challenging time, I've always been like, I don't want my son to see me as, bitter or broken or speaking badly about his dad, for whatever it may be, but I just want him to know that he's in a safe, loving environment, and hopefully he feels that from both parents eventually. So I completely get where you're coming from, for sure. Yeah, no, I'm sure your son will get that warmth and that resonance from you in terms of what you said. No, these kids are smart nowadays, aren't they? And they grow quickly and learn quickly. Yeah. So I'm sure they'll feel it. Great. Well, Ainsley, thank you so much, because I know today's usually Daddy-Daughter Day Sundays. Today's Daddy-Daughter Day. So I've taken a bit of time away. So I'm so grateful that you've given me that time, and just keep on doing what you're doing. Honestly, I'm sure not just me. There must be loads of people that are seeing, the genuine side of what you're actually doing, and just keep on encouraging others, and maybe that resonates through other things that you might want to do. Inspiring others, mentoring others, I don't know, but I feel like you're doing a great job. No, the only thing I would say is, the reason I kind of said, I'm more than happy to do it, if one other person, one other dad, one other mum, one other parent, gets some value from it, and kind of, and it can kind of like, help them to kind of get some more, or, benefit themselves and benefit their child, then job done. Mission accomplished. We've done another goal. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining me. No problem. Thanks. Let's Talk DXB. Real conversations by real people.